Shalom, 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 shalom. This is your Messianic pastor and prophet coming to you today once again. I'm very delighted to be here today, bringing you visions of God as the heavens open up. It's been a while that I've not been able to bring any of my podcast to you, but I'm very glad to have the opportunity to speak to you once again today. The last time I spoke on this platform, I brought you a message regarding the quick events that occurred in ancient Israel, in which 4 members of the same royal lineage were deposed and sent into exile, one after the other in that quick successive order. And God did give me a vision that these events were not just extraneous. They were very important inside and internal struggles that occurred, that opened up the kings to be deposed by their neighbors, namely the Assyrians, the Egyptians, and the Babylonians. And that was a lesson to learn there, that you gotta always try to keep your house in order. People in authority must have to work in unity and in harmony. Otherwise, their enemies are gonna cash in into their weaknesses to do them harm. But today I have a new vision that God gave me last night regarding the recently concluded DNA testing that occurred in Nnewi, in the southeast of Nigeria. I read about it on the internet, that some Jewish scientists went to Nnewi to take DNA samples to authenticate the argument that Igbos have Israelite or Jewish connection or roots. This is not the first time that emissaries and Jewish individuals have been sent to the southeast of Nigeria just to do a fact-finding to the effect that whether or not Igbos are Jews or not. It's been going on for over 300 years. If my historical antecedent report is anything to go by, but it's been a long time. And every now and then, we get the same result. Sometimes we don't even get a result at all. Some people have told us, no, they didn't find any evidence that Igbos are Jews. They didn't. What we have not been told is how was the survey conducted? Who were interviewed? What kind of a scientific method was being used? Who wrote the report? Things like that. When that you have to consider, were there validity and reliability reliability, that needed to be resolved. When you're conducting a research, I've conducted a few myself. Having graduated with a doctorate degree, so I've been doing research for quite some time. So. And I don't think, the determination over whether or not Igbos are Jews will be made through a DNA testing, because this is an anthropological, issue. You wanna go into the background of the people. You wanna look at their history, their traditions and their way of life. You wanna see if there are similarities, with Jewish, traditions. They may not be 100% proof, but if you begin to see, if you can see an approximation of, some of the Igbo traditions that can lend credence to the fact that these people, have, Semitic roots, then you can be able to use that to be able to form a balanced judgment that indeed these people are Jews. The question of Igbo Jewish connection has has always been articulated by people who are dispassionate, people who have no interest in the matter. Like one Anglican bishop, Anglican missionary, British missionary that did extensive work in the southeast of Nigeria along the Niger River Valley, named G.T. Basden or Basden. Any of the pronunciations is acceptable. And he wrote in his book entitled "Among." Let me make sure I quote the book correctly. I think he said "Among the Igbos of Nigeria." It was written in 1912, when it wasn't even fashionable to be a Jew, because Jews were having a lot of struggles around the world. They were being chased from one city to another. They were being removed and expelled. So that's when that account was given, that these people have Semitic traditions, that they they have Hebrew mindset, and this information was being framed for the other missionaries that were coming, so that they will be very careful, and they will take due diligence when witnessing to the Igbos, to take particular care in witnessing to them around the Old Testament, which is the Torah, the 5 books of the Old Testament. I believe is Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and Numbers. Maybe not necessarily in that order, but the 5 books. So the G.T. Basden, told his fellow missionaries who were coming to witness the Igbos to be particularly mindful of the way they witness to them, because these people had Semitic or Jewish proclivity. So that was 1912, and before then we had the account of Ola Oda Equiano, sometimes referred to as Gustavus Vasa or Gustavus Vasa. Any of the pronunciation is also it should be accepted. And he wrote about 1789, almost 300 years ago, approximately 300 years ago, and he was an Igbo man who was a slave, who got separated from his family and ended up in Britain, where he actually bought his own freedom. And he wrote this very important autobiography. Autobiography means a book you write about yourself. Auto means self, in which he articulated the same views that his people. Every time he read the Old Testament, he found similarities in the customs, traditions, and idiosyncrasies of the Igbos, and he felt that his people had Jewish or Semitic roots, because they will not have any intimate relationship with their females during their menstrual cycle, the females' menstrual cycle, and the male children were the foreskin of their penis will be cut off or excised in what is called circumcision after the 8-day period of delivery, and we cannot commodify milk and meat, and we don't eat pork, or what they have called at different times ham, or pig or whatever. We don't eat that up till this day. We don't eat all of that. A collection of these these facts and evidence will point to you that will point to the fact that Igbos have Semitic roots, and no tribe in Nigeria or elsewhere claims to have a Israelite connection other than the Jews, other than the Igbos. Even one of our great political forefathers, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, refer to the Igbos as the Jews of Africa. Even when it was not even fashionable to be identified as Jew, he described his people as the Jews of Africa because of our tenacity, because of our industry, because of our conscientiousness. God, some words are difficult to pronounce, but conscientiousness in entrepreneurship, in medicine, in law, in commerce. But I don't see how productive it is to go to Nnewi to take DNA samples just to prove that Igbos are Jews, even though similar visits have been made, time and time again, and then we don't see any positive result. How can we be sure that the DNA evidence is going to be any different? The Lemba of South Africa, underwent similar DNA investigation. The South African scientists, I think, cell geneticists, concluded that the Lemba of South Africa, a particular group of the Lemba of South Africa had this Cohen model haplotype, which was a Y chromosome chromosome marker that tied them to the Levitical priesthood of Israel, and this was found amongst a certain kindred amongst the Lemba. That this was like 20 or 21 years ago, but they're still in Lemba. They're still in somewhere in Zimbabwe or Southern Africa. Nobody has allowed them to make Aliyah. And some people whom I spoke to said it is true that these people are along the Aaron Levitical priesthood, but because they are black people, there are some forces who will never see that the outcome of that DNA investigation to see the light of day. But if they were of other hue, other skin hue, they would have long been repatriated to the land of Israel. We have seen that in the B'nai Israel of Egypt, of India. Menashe, they say they are from the Manasseh tribe in some remote part of India because they're light-skinned, and then they're going to be of productive use to the land of Israel, and I have no problem with that. But it's just that somebody's missing the point. Igbos, I don't know if anyone else can be of more productive use than the Igbos. You can see they have built industries. They have migrated to different parts of the world. They have some of the best doctors in the United States, in Britain, best lawyers, nurses. I mean, just name it. When it comes to businesses, they start with nothing and they build massive business empires. So it kind of it's very, very painful that every now and then there's this investigation over whether or not the Igbos of Southeast Nigeria are Jews, and I don't know who amongst the Igbos are very smart people, but this was wrong-headed. The idea that some group of scientists will go and take DNA evidence just to prove whether or not we're Jews. Who knows if it's truly the Igbos that gave their samples? Because Nnewi is a very big city with a large population of non-Igbos in the city, because it has a very vibrant economy. And so some people who are not Igbos may have showed up and given their samples, because there's no way to know. And then again, whether it's true or not that Igbos are Jews, I don't think it matters at this time, because Igbos need to remember that best self-help is best help. You don't expect that Israel will allow 40 million Igbos to make aliyah into Israel, a very small country, and then we'll continue to support the state of Israel because we have connection with the Jews in any way we can. But the idea that Igbos want to, make aliyah to Israel in that whole, in that 40 million number population is just unrealistic. And I don't think it's the idea of the Igbos that they want to, leave their ancestral home in the southeast, which they are, by the way, they are fighting for, for East freedom. But they just want to be recognized. They want, Israel to see their brothers out there in the southeast, and then send resources, help them build their own synagogues, even their own temple. The temple is not to be built in one place. Yeah, they are planning the third temple in Israel. Maybe the fourth one should be built in my village, Moba, Abia State of Nigeria. We are predominantly Jews. We have been practicing Judaism for centuries. Our forefathers passed those traditions to us, from generation to generation. So that we don't want to be completely divorced or shut out of the Jewish tradition and culture. So the Igbos need to stop the idea of inviting scientists to come and conduct research over whether or not they're Jews. I mean, it's like going to a Christian community to ask them whether, to take samples to determine whether or not they are Christians, or to go to a largely Muslim community to take samples to be doubly sure that these are Muslims or any other religious group. We shouldn't be doing that. We are Jews, and that's the bottom line. And this will never go away, no matter how much they conduct these visits or these investigations or these researches, and no matter what the outcome is, even if the outcome is negative, the Igbos will never stop pushing the idea around the fact that they have Israelite and Jewish roots, because it's in our culture, it's in our tradition, it's in the way we behave, it's in the way we eat, it's in the things we don't eat, it's the way we relate to one another. Igbo society is hierarchical. It's based on patriarchy, just like ancient Israel. It's just the same thing. I don't know if it's good or bad, but that's the way we are. It's a hierarchical society. There are age grades. There are people with the red cap. You have to work your way up to that. That fraternity. A friendship. Circle. Just like in ancient Israel. It was based on hierarchical. Model of community. So that's what I wanted to discuss today about this DNA collection. I have nothing wrong with using the scientific method to make a determination of whether or not the Igbos are Jews, but I don't think it's gonna tell all the stories about the Igbos, given the fact that Nnewi, where the samples were collected, has a collection of people from different tribes in Nigeria who have intermarried with the Igbos, and you may not even be able to tell that they're not Igbos themselves. They speak the language, they wear the same clothes, they eat the same food. After their wives are Igbos, they have to feed them, the different delicacies of the Igbos. So that's what I wanted to draw your attention to today. The Igbos will continue to support Israel because we are of the same lineage, but I know there are some forces who will never ever see to it that the Igbos are embraced by the larger Jewish community. Admittedly, there are some people who have been providing resources, who have been visiting the Igbo synagogues and Jewish communities, you know, and then, you know, giving them, you know, offering solidarity and support. And then some people have often argued that, well, these people are Christians. Well, we were not originally Christians when we got removed and deported after the fall of the first and second temple, and we made our way to the present southeast of Nigeria. Christianity was foisted and forced on us because the Jewish communities were in hiding. You know, after the Assyrians, the Egyptians, the Babylonians, you know, attacked and carried off, you know, captives. So it was not very safe for, you know, the Jews to openly practice their their tradition, their religion, and way of life. So but they had to worship God in one way or the other. So, and the Christian missionaries saw a vacuum and decided to fill it by, you know, introducing Igbo Jews to Christianity. And it's a struggle, because this is you know, the religions they have known for centuries, because there was no alternative. So it's going to be a struggle for them to you know, automatically divorce themselves from Christianity. But we have seen evidence of Igbos you know, re-emerging from their hiding and identifying with their you know, Jewish roots. Even amongst the Igbos, you know, are struggling with the idea that Igbos are Jews. They're going to argue openly, sometimes bitterly, that Igbos are Christians, and no more, no less. Yeah, it's going to take time for them to you know, realize, you know, their you know, what their roots are, and it will take you know, counseling. It will take education. It will take resources for many of our people to embrace the Jewish religion. I'm an ordained Christian pastor myself. I didn't know any better, but after you know, God, you know, has given me vision over and over again, and after you know, mingling and interacting with a lot of Jews, you know, I'm beginning to come to the realization that you know, I need to slowly but surely get back to my root. So until I come your way again, this is your messianic pastor and prophet, bringing you vision of God as the heavens open up. You know, remain blessed until I come your way again. Thank you so very much.